Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, soon to be joined by Chris Halleck, soon to have both of us flying on JetBlue out to Boston for the football game this weekend. Steelers versus Patriots is 1:02 p.m. for a kickoff at Gillette Stadium. I have no earthly idea what to think about this game. If you're coming here for anything at all that looks, feels, or even vaguely resembles an outlook, I'm out on the outlook. And that's for the principal reason that I think we all can agree what it is that the Steelers have to do. I don't want to insult your intelligence here and tell you, hey, they need to stop the run. Woohoo, subscribe, like. They're just... It's obvious. I don't need to tell anybody here that they need to not fall for that stupid crossing pattern that's beaten them 2 weeks in a row for touchdowns. I don't need to tell anybody that they need to be infinitely more effective at running the football, that they need to give it more often to Jaylen Warren, that they need to block better, that they need their left tackle to at least be a non-shortcoming on the offensive line. You know all of this. You know all of this. If you're pressing play on a program that's called Double Shot of Steelers, chances are at least decent that you already had one shot of this guy in this show. So you know what's going on. We're not here to talk down to anybody. The question is, what do you do if you're the Steelers? How do you turn it on? How do you set things up so that your best players can get back to being your best players? We all talk about the coaching and so forth. TJ Watt has no sacks and 2 quarterback hits in his past 6 games. Cam Hayward has no sacks in that same time period. These are your 2 best players. If Jalen Ramsey is your 3rd best defensive player, then the Seahawks just came off picking on him. They targeted passes at him 11 times, completed 9 of those for 128 yards. Yeah, he had the touchdown. He had the splash. He's good at that. Didn't stop them from going at him. These are your best players. I'll say this again. We focus a lot on the coaching. We focus a lot on the instruction. And we focus a lot on schematics and usage and everything else. But the real issue, when you get right down to it, is what you send on the field and how it performs. You can come say hi to everybody, you guys. Oh, yeah. Come on. You're acting bashful. The Queen is here.
It's the last week.
The Queen is here. She's come to say hello to everybody. Right down there. Look at that. The Queen. You don't recognize the Queen from PNC Park out in left field? She's here to see us.
Gifts. I come bearing gifts.
She comes bearing gifts on this, the final weekend of this most miserable baseball season.
And on the Pirate Day.
You know, Dwight Jefferson is quoting our great and most unfortunately late friend Dale Lawley, saying the Jimmies and Joes need to buck up and the X's and O's need to arise out of Tomlin's fears. But what Dale would always say is that it is the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. Who's gonna step up? Who's gonna fight back? Are you anticipating some big game from TJ here for the first time in a while? Are you anticipating some big game from Cam? Are you anticipating some way in which they can be moved around and not defended or avoided so casually the way we've seen now for way too long? I don't know. I haven't even touched on the offense. But I don't have an answer here. Teresa wants to know why players are regressing under these coaches. Are they regressing or are they being neutralized by the opposing coaches? Teresa says Isaac Seumalo is a great example. Isaac's getting older, being fair there.
Good to see you.
To me, I look at Keanu Benton as a much more authoritative example. Keanu's in year 3. They thought they had something special in him as a rookie. He has actually regressed. He has actually become a lesser football player in that time since then. And is that on the coaches? Is that on the players? Is that on the people around them? Is that on the agents? I don't know. But to somehow think that we're just all going to see this panacea weekend where everything is just fine after Sunday in Foxborough and they're ready to symbolically fly high over to Ireland and take on the Vikings. And why would we think that right now? Why would that cross our minds? Zach thinks he's coming through with suggestions here. Maybe he is. Says, number 1, jam the receivers at the line. Number 2, start using a 2-high shell. Okay, who's your second guy high? Number 3, less Benton, more Daniel Equali, more YA Black. I'll take my check in the mail. I'll give you a third of the check because I really like the third one. I don't think you can pull off the 2-high shell when you've been set up to have one high safety all through camp and everything else. And that hasn't gone well. And now you're talking about all these communication breakdowns, and you're going to now throw in a totally different look back there. I'm not into that at all. Jamming receivers at the line, yeah, you can do that. You can do something that maybe gets you a little more physical, and more of a presence that's up front, as opposed to just getting scorched without ever having even made physical contact with somebody. That's different. But you guys, this is not a simple one here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Halleck. Hey guys, if you're planning to see a Steelers game, use the Game Time app to get your tickets. You can snag new ticket deals before anyone if you set it into your app alerts. The app is easy to use. No surprise fees at checkout. You can see your seat view before buying, and you're getting legit tickets delivered on time. If you're not much of a planner, you can get last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app and enter the code DK Steelers into your app profile to get $20 off your first purchase. So, hey there, it's Chris Halleck. What's up, Chris?
Hey, what's going on?
Well, what's going on is football season. It's funny that you ask, Chris. And it is time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl, or if you have any thoughts on any kind of, really good, strong sense that you have that you're willing to put money on it, check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so that you can join in on all the action. Some small amount of news from the South Side today in that Derek Harmon was a full participant in practice for the first time this week, coming off that preseason knee injury that would appear to put him in line to make his NFL debut Sunday, none too soon. I can't understand why they would have him as a full participant after 2 days of limited participation unless that was the intent. However, Mike Tomlin did throw out earlier in the week that the decision on Harmon is going to be about a little bit more than just pure health. This is his first game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really thought he was going to have to be a full participant today in order to have any chance at all to play. If it's a Nick Herbig, if it's a player who's like a year 3 guy, something like that, you could probably get away with being limited all week and play. But with Harmon not only being a rookie, but not having an NFL game under his belt yet, he was going to have at least 1 day of full participation. He got that today. Still gets the questionable tag, but I do think that I would lean toward him playing, but I would not be surprised if his snaps are pretty limited.
That's exactly where I was about to go here. You can have YA Black out there. You can have, some of the other players that we've mentioned here and hoping for the best from Keanu and everything else here. But I wouldn't see Harmon getting more than 20 snaps. I think 20 sounds like a pretty reasonable number. Kurt calls me the Doom Patrol, and never mind the reference to the DC Comics characters, which I actually appreciate. It's only week 2. Doom Patrol, DK. I really don't feel like I've been negative about this football team. Like going back to training camp, preseason, and even these couple of games, this isn't our job here isn't to rah-rah anyone. Let's clear that up. We're reporters. So if you want to go back and look at how I or we carried ourselves when the Steelers were 10-3 last season, there's no Doom Patrol anything. Okay, just you're just calling it like it is. And right now, it's a bummer. What do you want us to say? Listen, Kurt, you can be the anti-Doom Patrol. You can be the Joy Division, all right, as long as we're throwing out names, okay? You can be the one that comes back at us with what glorious things you foresee occurring in Foxborough. What has to happen, Chris? What has to happen?
Well, obviously, communication has to improve. And I know we've talked a lot this week about communication. But in terms of like the whole Doom Patrol and all that stuff, I get it. I get people think about this football team carrying over from last year into this year and think that because it's the same head coach, it's the same defensive coordinator, that it's the same issues. And it's just not. It's not. There are too many new players for these to be the same exact issues. This really, I think Juan Thornhill said it best this week whenever he talked on Wednesday. He spoke about how, listen, just because things are bad early, it does not mean things are going to be bad all the time. Doesn't mean things are going to be bad the rest of the way. And he painted it in that way of saying when he was a rookie on the 2019 Chiefs, that during that first half of the year, they were bad. They were not a good defense at all. And they weren't. I went back and looked at some of the numbers. They were rotten early in the season, but they got everything sorted out. They got it figured out, and they turned into, over that second half of the season, pretty much the best defense in the league. And I'm not saying that that's the reason why they won the Super Bowl that year. Obviously, when you have Patrick Mahomes and prime Travis Kelce, that's going to be the most important variable in the equation. But you still have to have a defense that can stop the other team from scoring. The Chiefs did that, and that, I think he painted that picture quite well, saying that just because if this kind of stuff is happening in week 8, week 9, week 10, that's when you should hit the panic button.
Let's try to hit some specifics today. It's Friday. We're getting closer to game time. I honestly can't bring myself to look too much at the Patriots. We were doing a lot of that in the first 2 weeks. I don't think this game's going to be, from the Steelers' perspective, it's not going to be about anything that the Patriots do. It's going to be about themselves, for the better or for the worse. Rick says if Benton gets pushed around in first drives or first quarter, then enough is enough. Move him toward the end already and move Black to the inside. At that point, you couldn't do worse, apparently. Okay, I'll ask this right back, Rick. If you move Benton to the end, what are you getting out of him? What's he going to do for you? You think he's going to stop the run from over there because he's at the end? Do you think he's going to get to the quarterback when he hasn't been doing that for about 2 years? What do you think you're going to get out of him? Or is it just move him to move him? Is it move him to punish him? Is it move him there because there's no one else to put there? This is why, lay the stuff out. Let's get more specific here. If Harmon is your starting left defensive end, which I don't believe that he's going to be in the position to be on Sunday. If he is Black your true nose tackle? I don't know. They claim they don't even believe in it anymore. One way or another, put people on the field who can stop the run. Okay, have them raise their hands if you have to in the classroom. Any of you feel like actually stopping the run this week? Have you seen the missed tackle stats?
Yeah,
Chris. Okay, who's dead freaking last in the National Football League in missed tackles? Now, you and I we're going to do this. We will criticize the coaches. We spent the first half of this week pretty much just railing on the failed schemes, the lack of imagination, the passivity, and so forth. However, they aren't out there to tackle people. All their job is to put people in position where they can make plays. That's true of any sport.
Yeah, and
if you're not making the tackles, if you're not executing the tackle, and you're saying that it's because Deshaun Elliott's missing, okay, Elliott would make a difference. Elliott never misses a tackle, but he's not there. And the other people that you do have on your defense are paid principally to do one thing, and that is to tackle the football.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, just because people like to hate on the guy, I'm gonna give you a stat here. I just looked it up. Patrick Queen, how many missed tackles this season do you think he has?
He can't be many. I think he's been pretty efficient. Yeah, okay.
A big old 0. No.
Yeah. Now, has he been sharp enough in detecting the run? Has he hit the holes aggressively enough?
He was a lot better in week 2 than week 1.
Okay, right. So that we're not letting him off either. And by the way, neither would he.
No.
Okay, PQ would be the first one to tell you I've got another level to be hitting here.
Yeah.
When you're talking about missed tackles and you're talking about the Steelers leading the NFL in those, I'm sorry. I don't pin that one on the coach. You don't motivate people at this level. Chuck Noll was the one who said, if I have to motivate you, I'm going to cut you.
Yeah.
I mean,
the coach's job is to put the players in the right spots so that they can make plays.
Make the play.
And if the players are not making plays, then there's nothing else the coach can do. So yeah, they've got to tackle better. To me, the 3 biggest issues, this isn't as specific, but it's kind of specific. We're trying to diagnose what the issues are. The biggest issues right now are, number 1 is communication. Number 2 is misalignment before the snap. That is both on the coaches and on the players. That's players not being detailed enough. Tara Lawson talked about it this week, how we are losing before the ball is even snapped. And there's no way that you can possibly do well at all if you're losing before the ball's even snapped. So that's number 2. And then number 3 would be missed tackles, because I feel like if you take care of the first 2 things, if you can at least get yourself in the right spot eventually, I don't think this missed tackle rate is sustainable. I don't think you're going to be this bad and missing tackles for 17 games. And if you are, there's got to be some, I don't know. I just don't think it's sustainable.
Well,
I don't.
One of the nice things about having 2 people on this program and 2 people who cover the Steelers on this program is that you're going to get differing opinions, and we're just fine with that. We're just talking football here. I will disagree with immense respect that communication is the number 1 issue. When I see a defense that's getting cut up through the middle repeatedly and at times effortlessly, and it's happening through both the run and the pass, I'm not thinking about communication. I'm thinking about execution. I'm thinking about the stuff that Cam Hayward talked about yesterday. I'm thinking about getting off blocks, making plays. I'm thinking about, if we want to talk about misaligning people, we can do that. TJ Watt made 2 significant plays in the game last week. They both came when he was moved to the right side. Now, do you want him over there permanently? No. Do you want to move him around to keep the other teams from getting too comfortable? Yes, of course you do. Do they do that? No, they don't. Is TJ making enough plays in and of himself? No, he's not. Is Cam making enough? No, he's not. None of them are on defense. None of them individually. And as long as you can get just grossly exposed by having people run right up the gut at you, especially on the 3rd downs and stuff, I'm going to see that as the number 1 issue. I don't think you can advance to step 2 until you solve that as step 1.
I see where you're coming from. The reason why I listed communication there is because a lot of the issues that happened on 3rd down in the last game, especially like in coverage. The blitzes were about to get home. They were literally half a second away. I mean, we're not talking a length of time here. The very first play that or the very first third down that the Seahawks had and converted, TJ Watt stunted to the inside and hit Sam Darnold right after he threw it.
Right.
And the reason why he was able to get rid of that ball so fast is because the receiver beat Jalen Ramsey in one-on-one coverage, and there was nobody over the middle of the field to support. And so it was literally Sam Darnold catch, back foot, get rid of the ball. There's no chance for a pass rush to get there at all because the coverage wasn't buttoned up on the back end. And then Queen, he hit Sam Darnold right after he hits Torrey Horton for a touchdown pass. Very first touchdown of the game last week. And that was absolutely a busted coverage that came from miscommunication. And so if you think about, like, if that stuff gets cleaned up before the snap, TJ Watt probably gets a sack on that third down. And even if that doesn't happen, Patrick Queen gets a sack on that touchdown pass. If they just get the coverage down in the back end, that coverage being broken down. And Justin here says that Ramsey didn't get beat. He was misaligned. If that was on third down, I see what you're saying because he was lined up with outside leverage on that. It's cover one at that point, but every single cornerback in the league is going to play outside leverage because you never want to get beat to the outside because you have no help on the outside. So you always want to try to force help to the middle. But the problem is that it was straight up cover one. So there's no hole defender. There's nobody in the middle. And if it's an in breaking route, you're screwed. And that's exactly what happened.
Grayson chimes in with a $5 contribution. I agree it's early, but I'm vexed by this Tomlin team. Way too much talent to have these results. I truly believe the coaching is failing the players. There's talent, but is it in the present day? Are there names that have accomplished more in the past than they can or capable of in the present? I think that's a fair thing to bring up anytime we get excited. And now we were saying this in training camp too. It's one thing to talk about Jalen Ramsey, and it's another thing to talk about Jalen Ramsey at age 30. There are people who really didn't like what they saw of him the past couple of seasons in the NFL, and we certainly heard about that in advance. We also, of course, have seen in his time with the Steelers, his very brief time, that he could still make a literal impact on occasion. Heldon says, is there any frustration among the defense behind the scenes toward the system / play calling / communication during the week in terms of how they are prepping? The sluggish, messy play is concerning. Why, no, there is none of that. It's a non-thing. Has never occurred. We've not heard any player complaining about this sort of thing, have we, Chris?
No, but there are some players, or at least one player in particular, that won't answer questions about what breakdowns are. And usually when that happens,
somebody doesn't want to say something that would get them in trouble.
Yeah. There will be a Friday Insider that's written here the next time I'm on the schedule, and it'll be a little bit more revealing. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a regular feature on our DK Pittsburgh Sports app that you already downloaded today. So why am I wasting your time with it? You've already done this. It's sitting there in your device.
I got to gather more information before I can also put out there what I need to put out there. But I think the one thing that I can say, and I've even already said it, I've been told by a number of players and one specifically by one starter that this year's defense is more detailed than last year's defense, like the system, the playbook. That is good to know for sure, but I think when you begin to wonder about schematics and everything, I think you begin to wonder, is it the right kind of defense you want to be running in 2025? And that, I think, is where you could possibly see some frustration if it's not executed correctly. Because even Cam Hayward has said our defense is predicated on everybody doing their job. There's no room for error.
Right. So it's Jenga. You pull one piece out and the whole thing falls apart. And that's what we're seeing. One person or multiple people aren't doing their jobs, or Peyton Wilson's splattering into a teammate or taking some circuitous route to running to a running play, and the whole thing just goes poof.
Yeah.
And that's why you're seeing this ridiculous ratio of big plays allowed by the Steelers. Steelers defense gave up 18 plays of 10 or more yards this past week. 18.
Yeah.
18 plays of 10 or more yards, historic and all that other stuff. 4 of those were for more than 20. Yeah. And you're talking sometimes it's fair. It really is to give the opponent credit. But you have to look at when it's an exception for the opponent too. That was Seattle's highest offensive output in 23 games. 2 years.
Yeah.
The Seahawks hadn't done anything like that. And they used to have, a pretty good version of Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and these guys. This was their biggest one.
And I think one of the advantages of coaches having familiarity with other coaches, this is where if Tomlin doesn't change too much, really great example here. Mike McDonald is the head coach of Seattle. Now, he's a defensive-minded guy, so he's not scheming directly against Mike Tomlin as the offensive coordinator, but Mike McDonald coached for 9 years in Baltimore. 2 years as defensive coordinator. He is very, very familiar with what the Steelers run, how they run it, and there's a lot of notes that you can give your offensive coordinator to be like, this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to be doing to attack. This is what they're going to be doing on third downs. This is what they're going to like. You bet Mike McDonald has a lot of notes from that, and it was very apparent they knew how to attack that defense. And I'm wondering as time goes on and as weeks go on, like this week, Josh McDaniels. This is not going to be this is not an offensive coordinator that's never seen Mike Tomlin's defense before. He's absolutely seen it, and he's game planned against it. He's going to game plan against it again later on in the season when they play the Colts. Shane Steichen absolutely destroyed the Steelers cover 3 last year. It was
humiliating.
Shane Steichen knows where the bones are buried in cover 3, and he exposed it with Joe Flacco last year. I mean, that's a game the Steelers should win when they play the Colts later this year. But man, I also know that
it was disturbing too, that game.
Yeah,
because you're watching that. We were covering that in Indianapolis, and a couple of things jumped to mind from that one. One is that Justin Fields was trying to carry the Steelers on his back to victory that day, and almost did. What he did was wonderful to watch. Okay, that's one side of it. The other was that it was like watching an NFL team take on a high school team schematically. Mm-hmm. It was whenever the Colts had the football, and remember that they lost their starting quarterback early in that game, and this was supposed to be tee off on Flacco Day. Well, one thing Flacco still has, the reason he's still in the league, is what's underneath the helmet, and they just decimated the Steelers schematically. It was bleh to watch.
There are so many. The problem is that even if you're buttoned up and you have all your zones taken care of in cover 3, there are some offensive coordinators who know exactly where to attack you. They know how, whether it's up the seams, whether it's between the 4 zones underneath the 3 deep defenders, whatever it is. There are some offensive coordinators who know how to attack it. Steichen is one of them. And you got to again, Josh McDaniels, he's been around for a while. I know that whenever he first started becoming a prominent coach, he was a really young guy, but that's not the case anymore. He's been around for a while. And this week, with a really talented quarterback in Drake May, who I wouldn't quite call a dual threat guy, but can absolutely get some yards with his legs when he needs to. it's not going to be easy. I keep saying like I haven't given my official prediction yet, but don't be surprised if I lean Patriots on this one. I don't feel great with the way that this team is trying to figure out their communication issues, their pre-snap issues, and then you're going into a game on the road in a place that they have historically not played well against a really talented young quarterback, an offense coordinator who has familiarity with Mike Tomlin. I'm not confident right now until proven otherwise.
So we're back to the original subject here, because you can see that we have swung, and we do. This is where the boomerang leads more often than not. We can start talking about the players. We did that today, and it keeps coming back to the coaches. I saw somebody ask earlier, regarding Peyton Wilson's circuitous routes to get to somebody who's running. Isn't that also coaching? Is it? I mean, here again, we're talking about hunting down the football. This is something you've been doing since you were yay big. This isn't something that, you're either capable of doing that at the Pop Warner level, or you're never going to grow into it. You're not going to, oh, wait, the coach wants me to not go like this. Oh, why didn't you say that, coach? It's just, you can't do that with everything. Enough things are wrong with the Steelers that you can have a much easier time citing what's not wrong. And I'll go right ahead and do it and invest 10 full seconds of this program into it. Chris Boswell can kick. Corliss Waitman can punt. Zach Frazier can block. I mean, everybody go right down the line, even the guys who've made big plays, the guys who've had big games. Aaron Rodgers had a big opening game. He wasn't himself in the second game. DK Metcalf is showing you every once in a while why he's so scary. He's also committing some drops. Calvin Austin looked like he broke out in the first game. Then he disappeared in the second game. Troy Fautanu looked like part of the solution in the first game. Didn't block nearly as well in the second. We could do this through the entire offense and through the entire defense, and I'm still going to end up with probably those same three players, the two guys who kick the ball and your center. And that might be it.
Yeah.
Can you think of anybody? I'm not even trying to be cute here. Like, can you think of somebody else where you'd say, oh, yeah, that player's been fine?
Jaylen Warren.
Jaylen Warren. Yeah, that's a big whiff on my part. That's a good one. Although Jalen's rushes, he hasn't been able to rush for more than most, but then he also didn't get the ball much. Remember that his big play came on a pass.
It did.
Now, it was beautiful football.
Oh, yeah. But I also don't think that the offensive line is creating a ton of room for the running game either. But I also don't think they've been Troy Fautanu talked a bit about it, and I went back and watched some of the film after he said it. He's like, we're not blowing assignments. It feels like we're one thing away on just about every single run. And I saw what he was talking about. Sometimes it's just one guy who's not necessarily losing, but just not quite getting to where he needs to go. And that's almost all that it takes. And so that to me gives me a little bit of hope for the run game eventually, that maybe they can get this figured out, because it doesn't look like they're just getting manhandled or they're just completely whiffing on everything. It just looks like they're just one block away from these 2 and 3 yard runs turning into 4 and 5 yard runs, and the 4 and 5 yard runs turning into 9 and 10 yard runs. So we could see that happen eventually. And I've got one more thing on the coaching thing really quick, and then I'm done on that. When we talk about who, like, as we had one question saying, like, when's the last time, like, we saw the Steelers, or like it said, like, oh, that was a really great scheme or something like that. I think Arthur Smith has had his moments, and I'm even going back to last year. I think Arthur Smith has had his moments where he has absolutely saw what a defense is doing, and
I agree with this. Yeah.
just absolutely cooked up something that attacked a defense's tendency, and he just like he knew it. And I will say this, I'll put it in this perspective. If you put the level of talent that the Steelers have on the defensive side over on the offensive side of the ball.
Oh, you just went there. Highest paid.
I think the Steelers would have a top 5 offense in the league. And I really, really believe that, because
I think if they blocked, it would be a pretty nice and welcome start.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you talk about having a coordinator who knows how to attack a defense. Now, do I think Arthur Smith is like the best offensive mind in football? No, I've been very clear. Sean McVay is my favorite offensive mind in football. I think he's brilliant. I love so many different things that he does. But I think Arthur Smith, when the wide zone stuff was really, really working, really, really cooking, and yeah, he had some really great talent. He had one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the league. But he also built stuff off of that made the entire offense hum. Arthur Smith is a good offensive coordinator.
I'm not going to speak for whoever is bringing this up, but I will say that I think for most part what we're talking about today is defensively. We haven't delineated that either, but when you're talking about when's the last time you saw the Steelers out scheme somebody from the defensive perspective, man, it's it's requiring a pretty big leap of memory. Yeah, there are a couple of games where I thought they did stuff, but then I would look more at what the opponent did, and I would say, when the team comes in with a quarterback, I'm thinking here's a good example, like the last game against the Cowboys. The Cowboys really didn't have a whole heck of a lot going on personnel wise. They were missing people, and Dak just ate them alive. And between Dak and his coordinator, they were just like dink, 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 bomb, dink, 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 bomb, game's over. And that's the kind of stuff that's really that's tough to absorb. You'll see the Steelers, I guess, if you want to give them a nod for something defensively, it would be the victories that they've had in recent years against Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, and they have had them, and they have had their moments where they were getting praised as being the team that was the only one that had figured out that solved. So maybe that's the way to go here if we're trying to take this seriously.
That's a pretty good answer right there.
Yeah,
they did have success against Lamar a lot longer than a lot of teams, and it's not like it was like, we talk about like Aaron Rodgers has never won at Gillette Stadium over 20. He's also played there twice. Like, it's not like a situation where the Steelers never played Lamar Jackson. They played him twice a year and were still the most successful team against him until here recently. He's kind of figured it out.
Yeah, and when you have people like Mike Vrabel, who we'll be seeing again this week, openly acknowledging that when he took his underdog Titans into Baltimore in that playoff game, that they followed the Steelers model on shutting down Lamar. He talked about it. Just said this is, and I don't think that's just because he played for the Steelers in another life. James Fairfield says, when do we accept that Tomlin isn't adjusting to the modern NFL? Here comes that boomerang effect. You're free to think this. You're free to believe this. I believe it as well, James, but I'm just telling you, that's how this goes. You can't sustain a criticism of the players. Everything keeps swinging back to the people who are in charge. And none of it's okay. That's the point that I'm making. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for the coaches. I'm not trying to say that the coaches are. No, none of it's okay right now, except for what did we come up? We came up with 4 players total. Can we throw Christian Kuntz in, especially since he wasn't even expected to start the season? No, I mean, he's on the roster.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a literal handful here. We've got 5 players who have not been part of the problem. 5. And three of them train alone at St. Vincent College on a separate field. And 2 of them are on offense, and none of them are on defense. Not one.
Yeah, I think
good luck.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, I think both Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Rodgers are kind of both in the same in terms of impact on the team.
In terms of big impact, yes.
Yeah, because they've both made some exceptional plays.
They did. And Jalen Ramsey got targeted 11 times by the Seahawks for 9 catches, 128 yards. And we're going to hide that, and easily so, because of the pick. And he had a PD in there too.
I don't think that's I think people will look at that and just think, oh, he got torched. I don't think that's the case.
He didn't win. He didn't win the day. You don't give up 9 catches as a corner, no matter who you are, and win the day.
But the other part of that is I really want to know. Like, I would love to sit down with the PFF guys and know, did you count Torrey Horton's touchdown catch as one of those 9 catches? Because if you did, Jalen Ramsey wasn't in coverage.
Yeah,
he wasn't. That's
well,
not.
We will. I would never want to sit down with the PFF guys.
Well, me neither. But
that's all I've got on that subject. I've seen them. I don't want to sit down with them.
I'm curious now. I'm going to see if they say that he gave up a touchdown, that means that they considered him in coverage on that, and he was not. That was not his responsibility. 1,000%. That is verified by 2 players in the locker room.
This is it's not a good football team right now. And what has to happen, Chris, we're going to take a couple more today. What has to happen is that there's got to be a turnaround. I believe it's got to be a base level, boring, fundamental type of turnaround. If the Patriots come out at you for whatever reason, running the ball, and they've got the people to do that a little bit, stop them. If they come out at you throwing the ball, stop them. Get them off the field. It doesn't have to be 3 and out. There can be a little bit of bending involved. There can be some adjustments, but make the basic plays, make the basic tackles. You've got to restart. You've got to jump on this reset button with both feet up and down and up and down until you can at least find some equilibrium, some confidence. You know, some of these guys talked this week on the South Side about there were times in that Seattle game where they felt like they were stopping the run, and they were. First couple of downs, you'd see them, they'd gang up the backfield. There were even some TFLs and so forth, and you thought, oh yeah, here they go. It's coming. And then they just get blown up on 3rd down.
Mm-hmm.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You've got to start somewhere. You've got to find a way to just make basic plays.
I agree. I think a big way to do that is to make sure that you are not trying to do too much, that you are literally in the right spot that you're supposed to be before the ball is snapped, and then you just execute exactly what you're supposed to do within the play that's called, whether that's offense, defense, whatever. But primarily on the defensive side, because yes, while I think that the defense has not schematically morphed or evolved as the league had, like along with the league, I also think that it's not so bad schematically that if everybody executes their jobs at a high level, at a high efficiency, that they're going to get torched. I don't think it's going to be like that either. I think like if players can execute better, I think you're going to see better results more often than not. I still think that there will be times in which offenses carve them up, whether it be on a series or whether it be a game here and there. But that's just because I from what I know about the schematics of the defense. But I do think that sometimes, like we've seen some comments, sometimes it is just about getting back to basics. It's just about making sure you're in the right spot for what's supposed to be called, and then you just execute exactly how it's supposed to be called. Sometimes that's all it takes. And Cam Hayward's really, really stressed that point a lot, and I don't think he's wrong. And just for fun, yes, they did credit Jalen Ramsey for giving up a touchdown.
That touchdown. That'll take 20 some yards and a catch off of there for sure.
That's incorrect.
Okay, but it's still okay. So if it's 8 catches and 100 some yards, he didn't win the day. Jim Pekarsky says they have to get this turned around before facing the Packers in the schedule that follows. No, Jim, they have to get this turned around before Sunday.
Yeah,
okay. I can't stress this part enough. The Ireland game and the bye week that follows is such a heavy dividing line.
Yeah.
If you're losing this game on Sunday. And then you've lost to two pretty mid teams early on. Then you go to Ireland, and the Vikings probably aren't going to have JJ McCarthy. If anything, the Vikings would err on the side of caution because they have their next two games in Europe, meaning the one against the Steelers, and then they go across the little more water to get to London to play another game here. They get their bye, so they can buy BYE time for McCarthy to get healthy. So you're probably not going to face McCarthy when you go to Ireland. If you don't win that, you're toast. I'm sorry. You're coming back. You're getting into AFC North.
Yeah.
And I understand it's the Browns, okay, but you're getting into AFC North, and they need to. I don't know. Let me put it this way. People hate when I say this. I don't know that they need to win Sunday. They just need to start doing some things better.
I would agree with that.
I don't know that they need the result. I think if there were some sort of crazy finish or whatever, and the Patriots pull it out, you can look at the standings and you can see 1 and 2. You can feel better about yourself flying to Ireland. I think that's a big deal. Go over there, take care of a team that doesn't have his quarterback, even it out at 2-2, take the bye, use the whole thing to recalibrate, whatever else here. But you gotta play better. You can't. This crap that they're doing can't continue.
Yeah.
It can't. Whether they're injured, not injured, they have to start doing some things good again. Remember that at least when they left East Rutherford, they had different things that they could hang on to. They didn't like the way it went. They liked the result. Mm-hmm. But they had the 4 offensive touchdowns. They had other people involved in the passing game. Aaron Rodgers showed his stuff. You had stuff that you felt good about that was beyond the result. That has to happen this weekend. I really believe that, Chris.
I would agree with that. I would agree that if this team goes into Foxborough and the offense puts up 350 yards, the defense is way better against the run, and maybe it just takes one bad play that gets the game to go the wrong way. But everything else about the game went their way. If you had pretty much the same type of game the Jets had in week 1,
that's good. Yes. The way they felt, we heard them in the stadium that day. We heard everybody talking about it. Even the New York media and everything was asking questions about how awesome they were. And you had to have Aaron Glenn standing up there and saying, I'm not into moral victories.
Yeah.
They played well.
Yeah.
They didn't play well at all.
No, they didn't. They went the other way. But I'm just saying, like, if they have that type of a game where you outplay your opponent for the entire game, and pretty much the only thing that decides it is one guy making a dumb mistake on special teams or something like that, then okay, you really, really need the win, especially against an AFC opponent when you're talking about possibly trying to make the playoffs late in the season. And at least with the one loss so far, at least it was in the NFC, so that doesn't hurt your conference record. But yeah, like, you need to have a much better football game, play a cleaner game. The one thing when you talk about looking for moral victories and everything like this, Steelers have been, I think, penalized twice all season. They have not been penalized at all, like almost at all, in 2 games. So they're at least playing clean in that way. And
one could argue that that's because they haven't been anywhere near physical enough, which is another. I mean, and you haven't had Joey Porter,
but I mean, that also means that the offensive line, even if they're getting beat, they're not getting beat and then grabbing a guy by the jersey and throwing him to the ground to protect Rodgers, which maybe you should at that point because you need your quarterback, but. I don't know. But either way, yes, I agree. They need to play, win or lose. They need to have a game in which they felt like they were the better team.
Thanks to Kurt for dropping the $20. Thanks to Hans Mankato for exactly the same. Thanks to Carrie, as always. Thanks to to Grayson Brown. The last word on this Friday, as is often the case, goes to our good friend, the PEF out in Eastern Pennsylvania, who asks, is this defense too TJ Watt reliant? My answer to that, the PEF, is yes, but also it has been for some time. And all you're seeing now is that opponents are choosing to intentionally walk him to load the bases. In fact, they'll intentionally walk TJ with the bases already loaded, a la the big-headed version of Barry Bonds, because they'd rather not see him hit the ball over the fence.
Corey Seager has also been intentionally walked with the bases loaded, by the way.
That's gross.
I covered that game when it
I
happened.
was about to say that had to be one of the Rangers games that you covered.
Yeah.
Although Seager was on fire that year. I mean,
It was the year before, but still, it was hilarious when it happened.
The math was overwhelming, I'm sure. Yes, though. They're saying, where is 90? He's over there. All right, we're going to run over here.
Yeah.
But that's because they can't do anything about it because Alex Highsmith's always hurt. Oh, no, did I just say that out loud? And it's also because nobody over here is getting the job done. Nick Herbig's taking his place, and Herbig still can't stop the run. And whoever it is that they're putting around Cam can't do that either, so they go in that direction all day long. And that's what you've got now. People are just intentionally walking TJ. It doesn't take him off the hook. Doesn't mean he's made all the plays that he can make either. But my goodness, back to basics. Back to basics.
I agree. Yes, PEF. Yes. They are not only TJ Watt reliant, they are edge rusher reliant. And
good call. Yes.
That is again, there's going to be a Friday Insider in a couple of weeks or a few weeks or whatever that has more details on this. I can't give more right now, but yes, this defense is too reliant on its edge rushers by far.
Guys, we're heading out to Boston, as mentioned earlier here. We would love it if you came with us. The best way to do that, to accompany us, and we'd like to think of everything that we do on our app as being part of the process, is to go ahead and download the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. That part of it's free. Just bring it into your Apple or Android device. After you're done doing that, and here I go. I'm going to type up my email address again here. Email me. I'm going to be sitting right on that black chair behind me, answering your emails as they come in. I'll try to keep, if there's a lot of them, I'll try to keep up. Bear with me, okay? That's happened a couple of times too. Come on in or email me and just say that you want the massive discount for the premium version of the app. I don't want you using the free version with all the ads and everything. You can't comment. There's a lot of shortcomings to it, just being honest. Send that. We'll get you in at a very, very steep discount. It's really steep. I don't think anybody said no yet once I've brought up what the price is. So just go ahead and send me that now. We're going to get you in, and you'll be ready to follow everything that Chris and I offer from Foxborough, and, of course, beyond that. So final thoughts, Chris.
Just play a good football game. That's all I've got for this one.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought. Nobody else is going to, but I really think that makes a difference.
Just play a good football game. Like you said, I thought you hit the nail on the head on that, so I'll echo it. Play a good football game. Yeah. Obviously, you want to get a win, as you know, even though it's not a division opponent. Every win that you can get inside the conference helps when it comes to getting into the playoffs. And yeah, I understand people are like, you don't just want to go 9-8 and get to the playoffs to lose. You're still talking about getting into the playoffs, and you never know what kind of a dice roll you're going to get. Maybe you happen to get a Lamar Jackson-less Ravens in the first round. You never know.
Get better.
Just get better.
Get better. Stabilize and get better. I honestly. The win and the loss isn't, and I'll just say that in either direction, by the way. I want that on the record too.
Yeah.
If they win this game and they still stink at the stuff that we're talking about,
yeah,
I've got no interest in that either. They need to become a better football team by Sunday. No excuses, no apologies, no nothing. All right, guys, email me. Talk to you on Sunday.